FX Nation, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And in this video guys, we're going to take a look at when you look at a particular chart or pair, I'm going to show you how to start to identify levels on a brand new chart. So that way you know exactly what you're doing or a sense of what you're doing. When you first look at a chart, you don't know what to look for first. One of the biggest questions that I get asked a lot is, how do I start with just counting levels, right? So I'm going to show you in this quick tutorial video how to do that on any pair. All right, so without further ado guys, let's get this started. We're on AUD USD. So let's talk about how do we get started, right? If we're looking at this chart, like how do I even start with this, right? For me, the best thing that I do is I just quickly try to identify either a high, the closest high or the closest low, and kind of figure out where we are from there. Okay. Now, the first thing that you need to know is essentially what is the average daily range of a specific pair. So whatever the pair is that you're looking at, you want to know what the average range is, so that way you can start with that. Cool thing that we have is we have it on our app. So on our FXN app, we have an actual table that tells you the average, the daily averages for the most major pairs. And so if we just go to this website here, we can get the data essentially that we need for AUD USD, which is here. And it's about 79 pips or so, average per day the last 10 weeks. These numbers you can change. Obviously, you can go back from 10, 14, 20, whatever weeks you want. I leave it as it normally comes, which is 10, and that'll give me a pretty good average. If we take 79 pips, which is the average daily range, right? So average daily range is 79 pips. We take that, we times it times 3, which is typically what we like to see in a full cycle from the high to low, right? That gives us almost a count basically, or an idea of what a full cycle should look like, about 237 pips or so. That's 3 times ADR, okay? And that's just an idea, an average to get you started with, right? When I look at this chart, what do I look for? I look for either the low or the high. So immediately I can see that we have definitely a high here, a low here, a low here, and a high here, right? So we have all that. So now if we start measuring out essentially, these highs and lows and try to make sense of what the ADR is. So if we go from, let's say, this top here to the bottom, it's 311 pips, right? That's more than the 237. This went pretty much almost like, I would say almost 4 times ADR. So 3.5, 4 times ADR, something like that. Think of it like this. These numbers aren't always going to be perfect. So the ideal range is 3 times. Sometimes you'll have 2.9 times ADR. Other times you'll have 3.5, 3.2. And I've seen it up to 4 times ADR before price reverses, right? Here's the thing. When I look at this and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, this is kind of strange because if it went 3 times ADR, this one did it actually in a day and a half, right? And that's not normal behavior, right? Typically, a full 3 times ADR should take a few days, maybe a week or so, depending on the pair. So the fact that it did it in a day and a half, it's kind of not normal. But how do we deal with this essentially to still make sense of it? If we're on an hour chart, if we go down to a 15-minute time frame, all right? And so if we start to essentially count from here, count levels essentially, right? We'll end up getting, let's say this will be your peak here, and this will be your bottom, okay? And then let's start counting essentially the levels. So there's a level here, there's definitely a level here, and you could say this is also a level. So you have peak formation high, level 1, 2, 3, and then a peak low, okay? You can count it like that if you want to, perfectly fine. Other people will probably we'll count it probably this whole thing as one big level. And that's fine as well. You still get peak high, 1, 2, 3. Same thing. All right. You just count, some people count an extra level, other people don't. It's whatever preference. Everybody's going to have their own personal preference on that. I personally would count an extra level here because it did break structure. So it came down, went back up to the bottom before breaking down. So that's a level, and that just makes sense to me. Okay. Now, we got that figured out from levels, right? So we have peak formation high, and we have, let's just say, peak formation low here, just to keep it simple. All right, and so if we go back up to the 1 hour chart, this is what we have so far. Okay, peak high, peak low. Now, if you look from here to here, is probably not going to be 3 times ADR, right? So you're looking at, maybe 1.5 or so. So this automatically tells me that this is a reset here. Okay, because they wanted to go lower than this number here. All right, so this is a reset. So how do I do this? This is basically level 1 here. This is level 2. Now, because I know this is a reset, this will actually turn to peak formation high, reset. Okay. And then from here, I start counting from the very top to the bottom. So 218, so we're pretty much right at 3 times ADR. Okay, so we basically have essentially 3 levels of drop here. So where are they? So if this is the low here, this is going to be a level, and this is going to be a level here also. All right, so we have level 1, 2, and 3. So now, where are we? Well, if we just copy this over here, we're basically at level 1. Right? We're at level 1 going up. So what's your bias right now? Essentially, what would your bias be? Your bias should be to possibly look for buys, right? And so that's what we were actually doing here on this trade setup. If you look at this trade setup, it's actually a type 3 setup where if you have the levels figured out here, you have a bias, so you're looking for buys, and you actually end up getting a nice type 3 setup with a railroad track here as your entry. Okay, and then you also have TDI, a good confirmation on TDI as well, where it's bouncing off, making a W, bouncing off the 50. So you have the pattern, you have it in the right timing at 6:45 in the morning, London. You have TDI confirmation, you know where you are in the levels, right? So everything is in tune with what you're looking at, and so you're looking for buys, and there's your trade. Take it up to the 800 EMA, gave you easy 43 pips. The risk reward ratio was 3-to-1 on that trade. Okay. So now every day, if you keep doing this to the pairs that you follow, so let's say you follow like 4 or 5 pairs. If you do this to each of your pairs and you keep updating as you get new data, right, then you'll always be on track of at least knowing some type of directional bias, because the directional bias is hugely important for you to know and to follow, obviously, because that's what gives you the sense of direction of whether you're going to be a buyer or a seller today. Okay, so whether you're trying to figure out either the weekly cycles of Monday through Friday or these levels like this, either way, coming to a fresh new chart, this is how I pick out the levels. And by the way, if you can't see what's happening and you can't figure out what's happening within probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I would literally just move on and don't even worry about that pair. Move on to a different pair. There's so many other pairs to trade for you to spend 30 minutes on trying to figure something out, when at the end of the day, because you're not really sure about what's actually happening on the chart, you might actually just make it a 50-50 proposition of you trading, putting in a trade, and it just becomes a gamble at that point. And so you're not here to gamble. You're here to make very precise, accurate, good quality trades. And you can't do that if you don't know how to break this chart down like this to where it makes sense to you. So if you come up to a chart and literally you can't make sense of it, just move on to a better chart, because there's a gazillion other pairs that you can trade. Okay? So that's essentially how I approach looking at the different time frames and different charts. All right, for me, I look for the ADR and I try to backtrace from the ADR to my advantage. So whether it be from here, from the low to here, or from here to here, whatever it is, I use the ADR, and I use 3 times ADR to help me, to guide me essentially in trying to figure out, okay, where do we have a reset? Where do we not have a reset? So for example, right here, right now, right, we're saying we're at level 1. Now, on a higher time frame, if we go up on a higher time frame, like a 4-hour, even a 8-hour, or hell, even a daily, right? This may only be one level on a daily. So just keep that in mind. So this may still be your peak here on a daily, right? But this whole thing here essentially could be just level 1 on a daily. So just keep in mind that what's happening on the smaller time frame is literally the micro to the macro of what's happening on a daily chart. Okay, so if you look on the daily, you've been going in an uptrend for quite a while now. You can see for some time since March of 2020. So let's just say if you're counting levels on a daily, you can't use the ADR on the daily, because obviously, I mean, from here to here, it's literally 1,300 pips. So the ADR stuff isn't going to work on a daily. We're using the ADR stuff on a 1-hour, 15-hour chart so we can look at the smaller levels that's going on in the bigger picture. Let's just say that if, for example, if this is a peak formation high here on the daily and this is level 1, then essentially you know that on the bigger time frame, the likelihood is that the bigger picture is going to look for more downside, for more sells. And if that's the case, then how can this keep going down, right? The only way that this can keep going down is basically by resetting like it did here. You only went up 2 levels and it reset, gave you 3 more. So let's just say if they want to keep going down from here, they can just go ahead and push price down. And once it passes this end, this low here, it becomes a reset. This becomes the same thing, peak formation high. And then you start counting down 3 more levels again. That's it. You keep doing that 3 times ADR, and you can project out essentially if this is going to continue down, let's say, and let's just say that this is a reset, then you can project down, okay, what's 3 times ADR is about 230 some odd pips. So somewhere around here, let's say somewhere around 75, 0.7500 area is where I expect price to be. Okay, so if you look back, well, here's a major, area of support there on the higher time frames. So if we go up, there's an area there. So 3 times ADR from where price is now to here, that's where price should be. And it almost, by the time, if that does happen, by the way, and price does get down here, you'll basically be hitting the 800 EMA on a 4-hour chart. All right, so I hope that this helps you kind of identify how I start with the process. I start by trying to identify the closest low or the closest high, and then start to use what the ADR is times 3 to figure out, okay, when was the last clean cycle that it had. Guys, so I hope that was helpful. I hope that you found value in this video. If you did, please hit the like button, share the content, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and check out our playlist, Trading with Market Makers, for the way that we trade. Everything is there for free. You can actually download our app, and all the videos are there for free on our app. If you need any more help, we do have a class starting on the 14th. So in 4 days, we have our next class starting. All the links will be in the description. Those of you guys that are waiting for the crypto channel has actually been created, and we'll be posting a new video on that channel soon. The link is also in the description for that particular channel. That channel is strictly going to be all of crypto content only, news, product reviews, my thoughts on certain assets. So we're going to talk all crypto only on that particular channel. So I hope that you join us on that other channel. Again, links in the description. And if you need any help, let us know with the mentoring class. All right, guys, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.